The first spin-off series for the Sonic the Hedgehog movies is here with Knuckles. In this video, we're going to be reviewing the entire series and talking about the Easter eggs and references during it. So first off, we're going to go over the review. My general review for this video is it was a fun time. There was a lot of cheesy comedy, stuff that kind of felt very immature, stuff that was definitely directed to a younger audience. However, I think it worked almost flawlessly with this series. One of my problems though with this series is that they kind of promoted it as a Knuckles series, where in reality it was more of a Wade Whipple series, mostly because Knuckles' whole goal is to turn Wade Whipple into this warrior, which in the end they managed to do that. But I do wish we got more Knuckles during it, because after episode 3 they definitely heavily focused on Wade and his journey rather than focusing on Knuckles helping him in his. That didn't stop the episodes from having really fun moments during each time, because episode 1 was a lot of fun starting their journey, having Tails and Sonic with Knuckles at first, having him live in a warrior lifestyle in their home until he gets grounded because he's doing a bunch of shit that he's not supposed to, having the dog go against the mailman, his biggest enemy. But as we moved on to after episode 1 and Knuckles got captured too easily, you had Wade getting a hilariously badass moment while he tries to be a badass, thinking he's a secret agent, going to save Knuckles, messing up so bad that he blows up his own squad car and alerts enemies right away. I thought that was a lot of fun. I laughed my ass off during this series just because I turned off my brain, just kept enjoying all the fun moments, watching Wade fumble his way through being a hero. And I really liked how he fought the one agent at first, and the only way he won is because he squirted sriracha in his eyes. And I really liked how Knuckles and Wade bonded during out the series, especially how Knuckles gets taken to Wade's family, and they're kind of your typical family that is super dysfunctional. Both kids act like grown children who continue to fight like they're still kids. And I love how their mom just wanted them to have like this good family. Like she just wants a good moment, and they're going to have Shabbat. In Wade's eyes, every Friday as they were growing up was always complete chaos, and this never changed because his sister and him literally fight during it, and she stabs him with a fork. And you got a cop and an FBI agent who act like children, and you kind of wonder how they're in their positions, but it just adds to the unserious tone of the show, which ultimately led into some really good moments by the end of episode 3. Mostly with Knuckles coming to save Wade because of the bounty hunter punching the dude through the wall, and then having Knuckles save Wanda, the FBI agent who can't defend herself. And then the best moment from the episode, one of the best scenes honestly from the show, is Knuckles and the mom fighting with the Jewish music going on and making sure that the candles don't get touched in the tiny kitchen. Just so much fun. I thought the music worked super well with the scene too. I had a great time watching it. I honestly can't wait for more of the Sonic series, and I hope they do more spin-offs that focus on some of the other characters. Now, as we went into episode 4, that's when stuff really started to turn into a Wade-focused show, which I'm not against because it was a lot of fun focusing on Wade. I think Wade was a great character, and I really liked how we watched him become a warrior. He gets taken by the bounty hunter, dragged across the ground. He ends up getting thrown in a little cage by his ex-best friend Jack, which then leads to him going to the great battleground in the sky, which in turn is a bowling alley for him. I like how he meets Pachacamac, and they have this really odd scene with Jack as an owl and as Wade as Knuckles, but it was super weird, and it worked so well because you had the video game theme going on, Wade trying to be a warrior, learning how to be better, and then as soon as he's able to fight this, he jumps out of the trailer, somehow breaking the roof and landing perfectly fine, which was a pretty badass superhero landing for this show, but it doesn't make sense how he survived. They also set up the entire final big moment in this episode where he had the flaming fists of disaster, which I think is absolutely hilarious that teased the 2 episodes before, but with Wade. But I do like how it led into him having the duel with Jack on a bicycle versus a motorcycle with 2 katanas. Like, that was a pretty fun, hilarious scene because it was so ridiculous. It worked so well for the show. And Wade comes back a hero after cutting off Jack's hair and taking over the warrior spirit. I really liked the episode. Even though we didn't have much Knuckles in it, I really liked what they did. Now, as we moved into the final 2 episodes of the series, it was still focused on Wade going to see his father, having that father-son moment he's been waiting for his entire life, but also realizing that his dad's kind of a douchebag. You can kind of tell during this his father was playing him during the entire time, because after the initial rounds of the tournament, it was only father and son left. The 2 teams were going to go to head, and the bowling alley game was a lot of fun. They made it intense, but I really like how Wade and the Girl Scout were kind of jumping and dancing in the background every time they did something well, because it just showed how much fun they were just having with this tournament. Also, a little girl is literally beating all these grown adults in the bowling tournament, which was also hilarious in its own way. Now, when we talk about Wade and his father, you can really tell how Wade was getting played by his father, because his father kept talking about how he missed him, how he regretted his decisions in a very snarky way, which every time he would talk, I'm like, I don't believe this guy. I don't believe him, because I kind of saw past it, the big twist twist at the end really wasn't a twist in episode 5, because when his dad brought Wade to the agents and they already had his mom and sister captive, you kind of realize, this guy's an ass. He doesn't really care about his family. He only cares about himself. Because I love how that led to Wade being a true hero. Now, my only real big complaint is that we only really got Knuckles at the start of the episode, and we really didn't get much more of him afterwards. Again, this is a Knuckles series, and we didn't get enough of him. I still really like Wade as a character, but it definitely needed more Knuckles in it. It felt odd that there were so many scenes without him. However, they kind of made up for some of that stuff with episode 6, while Wade and Knuckles were actually working together to take down the agents and save his family. Just some awesome moments, having a fun fight, versing the agents, sending them to another world, and having Wade in the background just kind of trying to save his mom and sister. So those were good moments, and I really liked that. But the final episode just wasn't as climactic as I thought it was going to be, because you had Wade versing his father in the bowling tournament. He wins, good moment. Knuckles really didn't have this big climactic battle with the main bad guy, who we honestly only saw like twice in the entire series. Like, we knew it was there, but we didn't see much of. Now, this series didn't feel like something that was going to be super climactic, but the trailer definitely set up something to be bigger. They showed off the final fight in the trailer thinking it was going to be bigger, thinking it was going to happen sooner, but instead it happened at the very end, and honestly, they ended up winning with the power of friendship, which I'm not opposed to. I kind of like that half the time when I watch certain shows, and I really did like how Wade stood up for Knuckles, went to save his life, even though he probably would have died in the process, and that really showed where Wade came from. He was more of a scaredy cat before. He wasn't a badass. He wasn't a warrior, and by the end of this, he became a warrior. He became a better character. And I really like how that progressed him, because that also just led to Knuckles getting the flaming fist, which was a pretty badass moment, and knocking down the bad guy. I still wish there was more of a bigger fight, maybe having Tails and Sonic come in, or even having them at the end to kind of tease the next movie. But they didn't really do that, and that was kind of one of those things I was kind of disappointed by. But overall, I really liked the series. It was a lot of fun, super cheesy, but it was a really nice show to just shut your brain off, have a good time, and laugh, which honestly I kind of needed. And I'm glad I binged it in one day, because it would have felt really off if I didn't. And it's definitely one of those shows you have to watch all at once, because it works so much better than if it was week to week. Now, with that, let's talk about some of the Easter eggs and references that were during the series, because each episode had something. We had the goal point sign in episode 1 while he's running through his course, which is great because that's a reference to the video games. While Knuckles is digging underground, my first thought was Sonic Adventure Battle 2, because during his levels, you'd have to dig sometimes to get the emerald shards. Knuckles had an iron throne, which is a Game of Thrones reference. When Knuckles and Wade are initially driving, Wade calls him a bunch of names like Nucky, which is Chucky, Nucking Bear, which is Paddington Bear, Sir Nuxalot, which is Sir Lancelot, then Nicolas Cage, which is Nicolas Cage. So some fun references. And as we went through the series, we had even more references, with Wade watching Bad Boys while he was growing up, and that was his police training, kind of referencing because he's a cop. That's what he did to get better. When Wade is doing his secret agent stuff, kind of dreaming of being this hero, it felt very Home Alone-y, where he was putting the oil on the ground to make him slip inside, using the spray and the lighter to make a flamethrower. And then when he was standing out of this Ferrari, that's kind of, I'm pretty sure that's a reference to Magnum PI, because he's a cop and there's a Ferrari. When Knuckles is gliding, that's a reference to the video games, because Knuckles can only glide for a short time, and he even mentions that. So that was a great moment, kind of teeing up that Knuckles can't fly, but he can glide. And then during that scene, they also had him fly past the moon, which was a reference to E.T. While they were in Wade's house and his bedroom was filled with a lot of little different things. The main things that stood out were the posters, and a lot of them were cop-based. We had Rambo, RoboCop, Total Recall, Wayne's World 2, Robin Hood and the Atom Family, and the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live-action movie, Beavis and Butthead, The Big Lebowski, Ren and Stimpy, Speed, and then Naked Gun 2.5. So a bunch of movies based on some kind of law enforcement, plus some other ones. And we also had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle bed sheets and a shirt, because that's one of the properties from Paramount. There was also a T-Rex in there, which could be a reference to Jurassic Park, or it could just be a T-Rex. During the scene where Wade was dressed as Knuckles in the great battleground in the sky, they had all the classic video game stuff. They had the video game victory music, before they started the fight. Then they had Wade running through the Green Hill Zone in the classic map, plus the classic robotic enemies from Dr. Eggman, the rings, the spikes, and the final boss gold plate. All these things kind of teeing up to the original video games, which was awesome. They did have a final boss during this, but I couldn't really tell who it was. So if you have any clue, let me know down in the comments. Knuckles had his classic cowboy hat, which came from the 1996 Sonic the Hedgehog movie. When they go into the casino, they mention Kevin James is performing.
Kevin James is headlining here.
The mall cop?
which is a reference to Paul Blart Mall Cop. In the final episode, Wade was wearing a shirt and shorts for his bowling uniform that had a bunch of green boxes on it, which is a reference to the Green Hill Zone again, because they're from the Green Hills. And at the end, Knuckles gets his flaming fist, which is a thing from the video game. So Knuckles got a new power upgrade, and they kind of changed how his powers work in the live action series. And by the end of the series, they had references to Shadow the Hedgehog, because at the end, the bowling announcers are referencing that Knuckles crashing through the wall wasn't the first time an extraterrestrial has done that.
No, Gary, I looked it up, and actually this has happened before. There was a visit by an extraterrestrial in the 1974 tourney, but I don't think he was red.
Which we know from Sonic 2, they referenced Project Shadow, which was 50 years ago.
File buried deep in our system and dating back over 50 years. A secret research facility.
My God. Project Shadow.
And we know from Sonic Adventure 2, when Shadow got sent to Earth, it happened 50 years before the events of that video game. So I really like how they kind of teed all this up, saying that Shadow is coming, that he was on Earth before, and that he had potentially crashed into a bowling game just like that. So I'm kind of curious to see if in Sonic 3 that we will get a Shadow the Hedgehog scene where he's in a bowling alley when he crashed to Earth the first time. So I'm very excited to see what comes from this. And I really do like how the series tied into Sonic 2, and then also set up Sonic 3. So some great moments. I can't wait for the next movie, and I really like these characters as a whole. After the first debacle with the first Sonic movie, I'm so glad that they managed to make something amazing out of it, and I can't wait to see more. If you like this video, make sure to hit the like and the subscribe button to stay up to date with all the videos I make with video games, anime, Marvel, DC, and more. And let me know what you thought about the Knuckles series, and if there's any kind of Easter eggs or details I might have missed that you saw during it. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.